Mike Tyson's encounter with his long-lost father reveals a story filled with secrets, tension, and unexpected moments that few know about. One day, as Mike was returning to his New York apartment between his conviction and sentencing, he noticed a man standing outside. At first, he walked past, but then the man called out, and Mike recognized him immediately. It was his father, whom he hadn't seen since his mother's funeral 10 years earlier. Although initially scared, Mike felt no bitterness and welcomed his father inside, sensing a timid, almost intimidated man behind a rough reputation. The unexpected meeting. Mike Tyson ran into a man outside his New York apartment one day, only to realize it was his father, whom he hadn't seen since his mother's funeral a decade earlier. Despite initial fear, Mike welcomed him in, sensing a surprising vulnerability behind his father's timid demeanor. Mike was walking back from a girl's house and was about to enter his building when he saw a man standing outside. He walked right by him, but then heard him speak. "Hey, how are you doing, son?" Mike looked at him and immediately recognized that it was his father. The fear he felt at first quickly faded, and he wasn't bitter at him. Instead, he smiled and hugged him, easing the tension. Mike invited his father upstairs into his lobby. They started talking, and Mike's father seemed timid and intimidated, but Mike could sense he needed support. Despite their long separation, Mike approached the meeting without bitterness or judgment. This unexpected reunion was a moment charged with emotion, opening a door to a complicated past and an uncertain relationship. But that wasn't the whole story. A complex father's past. Tyson's father had a notorious reputation in Brooklyn as a hustler, gambler, and pimp, yet also a devoted churchgoer with a powerful religious streak. His life was a strange mixture of dirt and devotion, with a fierce street presence cloaked in flashy style. He was the real deal, dressing very well, known to control many women in his church, balancing the line between preacher and pimp. Growing up in Charlotte, North Carolina, right in the Bible Belt, he sang in gospel groups and stayed close to Jesus all his life, but he was also deeply involved in the underworld. Stories from Brooklyn painted him as a dangerous man, feared and respected on the streets, who wouldn't hesitate to shoot it out with cops if he had beefs. His tough reputation included dramatic events like shooting a man after being disrespected in a bar. Despite the contradictions in his character, his religious faith and criminal activities coexisted, making him a uniquely complex figure. This blending of worlds shaped not only his own life, but also the environment in which Mike Tyson was raised. Roots in the Bible Belt. Tyson's father was originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, right in the heart of the Bible Belt, a place known for its strong religious influence and traditional values. Growing up there, he sang in a gospel group and stayed close to his faith, always having Jesus as a guiding force in his life. But despite his devotion, he was also deeply involved in the rougher side of life. His story is one of contradictions, blending spirituality with a harsh reality that pulled him into a world of hustling and street power. He had to leave Charlotte after a serious dispute, a move that marked the beginning of his transformation from a small-town gospel singer into the infamous figure he later became in Brooklyn. Even with his rugged lifestyle, his connection to his roots was never completely erased, and that faith seemed to offer him some form of protection as he navigated a life full of danger and complexity. This dual nature, the preacher and the street hustler, defined much of his identity and made his presence both captivating and feared. It's a striking example of how the cultural and religious backdrop of the Bible Belt shaped one of the most complicated figures in Mike Tyson's life. The family dynamics. Tyson's father crossed paths with his mother through family connections, but his presence in young Mike's life was sparse and complicated, despite the bitterness his mother held towards him. Mike believed his father did the best he could with the limited family skills he had. In a world where being a black man raising a family back then was no easy feat, their relationship was distant, yet periodically his father would appear, trying to maintain some connection. Over the years, Mike heard many stories about his father's street reputation from people in Brooklyn. Some described him as a real hustler, a gambler, and yes, a pimp with a dominating presence. Mike admitted he was nowhere near as tough as his father, but he had always wanted to live up to that image. It was a complicated mix of respect and resentment. During the rare visits, Mike's father shared tales of his life, sometimes offering money and advice, though the warmth was often overshadowed by the raw reality of his past. Mike's mother, however, remained wary and bitter, making the family dynamics even more strained. The fractured family picture left Mike searching for understanding, trying to piece together what had led to such distance and silence. It's a stark reminder that behind every legend lies a deeply personal story of family struggles, unspoken pain, and attempts at connection. This turbulent relationship shaped much of who Mike became. Fiercely independent, yet yearning for some kind of approval from the father he barely knew. An unusual father-son bond. During their visit, Mike Tyson's father was taken by Mike's lifestyle and tried to connect, even accepting money. He shared bold advice and stories from his pimping days, revealing sides of life and relationships Mike had never known. Mike could see that his father was a man who had lived hard, but also one who was surprisingly humble and, at times, vulnerable. Despite the distance and years apart, there was a genuine attempt to bridge the gap between them. Mike's father talked about his experience with women, offering blunt, sometimes harsh truths that reflected his rough past. He even critiqued Mike's own approach to relationships, calling him a noob when it came to handling women, a jarring moment filled with tough love. This candidness was unexpected, but it underscored the complicated dynamics between them. Mike listened carefully, absorbing lessons that were as much warnings as wisdom. The conversation revealed both the similarities and vast differences in their lives, with Mike's father admitting that the world he knew was not entirely meant for Mike. This unusual bond was built on raw honesty and complicated emotions, marking a rare moment of connection between a son and a father who lived very different lives. For Mike, this encounter was a mix of learning, acceptance, and recognition of the hardships that shaped them both. Lessons and limitations. Mike asked for life lessons, only to receive blunt truths about women, respect, and the harsh realities of his father's world. Though knowledgeable, his father admitted some paths weren't meant for Mike, highlighting their differences and generational gap. He said, "All I know is the Bible and pimping, and that's not for you. I know I saw you with your women. You're a noob, son. It's nothing bad. Some people are just like that when it comes to women." He said some men never reach that level in life where they can handle them. "You're just one of those guys who don't know how to talk to women. You're just not good." This moment was a raw and honest passing of knowledge, but it also revealed the limitations in their relationship. Mike's father was clear that his experience was shaped by a life much different from Mike's own. The father-son gap was wide, not just in experiences, but in the paths they had chosen. Mike's father seemed resigned to those differences, unable to offer the kind of guidance Mike was seeking beyond his own narrow expertise. Still, the brutal honesty gave Mike a glimpse into the difficult world his father inhabited, the challenges he faced, and the expectations he held. It was a lesson not just about women or street smarts, but about accepting limits and understanding that not all legacies are easy to inherit or follow. This section of their story echoes the complicated realities many face when confronting family histories that are far from perfect, yet filled with hard-earned truths. The meetings end in reflection. As the conversation between Mike Tyson and his father took a raw turn, Mike felt the weight of their complicated past, but he was determined to focus on what mattered most: their relationship as father and son. He gently put his foot down, saying, "Hey, chill, man. I love my mother. You're my father. I love you. Let's not talk about you and her. Let's just work on our relationship." This moment marked a fragile truce, a step toward healing amid years of silence and distance. The meeting ended there, with unspoken emotions hanging heavy in the air, leaving both men reflecting on where they had been and what could be. Mike knew this meeting wouldn't erase a decade of absence, nor would it immediately fix the deep wounds left by family secrets and bitter feelings. Yet, it was a glimpse into the man behind the stories, a chance to connect beyond the shadows of the past. Their brief time together revealed how tangled relationships can be, especially when forged in hardship and misunderstanding. It showed a father trying to bridge a gap, and a son willing to see him, flaws and all. Even though their worlds were vastly different, Mike a global icon, his father a former hustler turned preacher. The encounter underscored a universal truth. Family ties are complicated, messy, but powerful. Mike Tyson's story reminds us that behind every legend lies a deeply human struggle, and sometimes the most profound battles are fought within the family itself. Mike Tyson's rare reunion with his father reveals a complex family legacy filled with contradictions, secrets, and unexpected moments that shape the man behind the boxing legend. Despite years of distance and tension, the meeting was a fragile bridge between past wounds and a desire for connection. Mike's willingness to embrace his father, even after so many years, shows a side of him rarely seen by the public, a longing to understand his roots and the challenges that molded his family. The story reminds us that fame and strength often come with complicated backgrounds, and that even the toughest figures carry hidden vulnerabilities. Their conversation, raw and honest, uncovered harsh truths about life, love, and survival, emphasizing how different paths within a family can lead to vastly different destinies. It also highlights the impact of environment and upbringing on identity, as Mike struggled to live up to the fierce reputation of his father, while carving out his own unique story. This reunion leaves us thinking about how much our ancestors influence us, and how we choose to either follow their footsteps or forge new paths. In the end, it's a poignant reminder that family ties are powerful, messy, and sometimes the key to understanding ourselves better. Mike Tyson's encounter with his father is not just a tale of rediscovery, but a window into the complicated layers behind legendary success, urging us to look beyond the public image and acknowledge the human stories beneath. These moments of connection can change how we see our past and shape how we move forward, making us question the true meaning of legacy and forgiveness.